Now, just going back, during COVID, we saw that the market had depressed a little bit as most of the places were closed down, but there was a lot happening online. So we were able to go onto a sort of buyer meets supplier forum, and we were able to get in touch with some buyers from Europe who were interested in the raw shea butter. So our shea butter from Uganda is excellent for it's excellent for skincare. So we actually export this butter into regional markets, and then we're also looking to expand into international markets. That's one of the reasons why we started focusing on export. Export, why export? It helps to buffer. When the local economy isn't working well, the export market usually always has a demand. Now the next question we always face is, can you meet the demand? Are you able to supply? How do you supply? Can you supply properly? Do you have all your paperwork? So the initial thing was we were able to put together, we actually ended up doing about 2 containers, which was about 24 tons worth of raw shea butter, and we sent it into Eastern Europe, and the client was very happy with that. From there, we sort of got our certifications in order. So, for example, you will need to have, depending on what the product is, you might need to have an export license. You might, for Europe, we had to get a Rex number, which we have, and then there are other certifications which you might need to do. We were able last year also to become ISO certified, so we've gotten that. We've just completed also on UNBS, and then now we're looking for the other certifications based on what the clients are asking. So a lot of it is trial and error in terms of finding the right clients and being able to provide. In terms of do's and don'ts, we always recommend, number one, when you're chatting with a client, never overpromise. We find a lot of times there's a lot of skepticism where people ask, but can you supply? Can you handle? And the issue is, what I always promise is what I can do. So if you ask me to supply 10 containers of shea butter every month, I can't do that. But I certainly can do 1 every 6 weeks. That I can promise to do. There is support available, but most of that you have to look at the particular agencies. So people like Export Promotions Board can be very useful, and then other developmental partners who are actually helping in that process. So really for us, it's been a learning curve. We're trying to learn more. At the moment also we see the Africa Free Continental Trade Area as a very big win for us if we can get there. So we're starting to look and see what that looks like, what the logistics also looks like, and then hopefully we'll be able to get into those markets. In terms of opportunities, it is very wide. At the moment there's a lot of interest definitely into Africa and African products. Whether it is a fruit, a vegetable, a raw material, or a finished product, all of those markets are open. I think wherever, because we get queries from Asia, from the US, from Europe, some from Africa. So, I mean, the world is huge. We're over, I think, 7 billion people now. So with that, it has an increasing demand. So I think what you need to do is sort of study your particular area that you're looking for. Like for us, we would really love to just focus on the African and European markets. If the other ones come up, well and good, but you know, we sort of need to know a little bit more about how those operate. Yeah, so the potential is always huge. I think the more information you can get out there, the better. So staying afloat in terms of business hasn't been easy. We all know that the market is very hard, but you have to, sometimes you have to take very hard decisions. For example, last year we expanded the team. We tried to expand into an area that wasn't really suited for us. So we then had to take the hard decision to actually scale back, which we did. But now we've got a very tight team that we're working with and that we can afford. We're just starting to get back on our feet now. So really, sometimes you've really got to look at your numbers very harshly and take some hard decisions, especially as a small business owner. Obviously, once you're bigger, you have a bigger buffer, and potentially there's more support for those entities. But when you're small or micro, you have to be very careful with what you can handle and then also make a quick decision to cut back if you need to. When it comes to packaging, you do need to look at where you are exporting to and how you're exporting, especially if you're exporting a finished product. This is recyclable plastic, but currently we're even trying to look for partners locally who will be able to recycle it. So even though it is recyclable, we are like trying to find an off-taker who can pick up the containers and then repackage them. There are other countries who are not accepting plastics anymore. So they'll want something that's either biodegradable or plant-based or paper. So all of those things you have to take into consideration when you're deciding to ship out a finished product. The issue with that, of course, it's costly. So there are certain things also to look at and say, okay, is it worth finishing my good abroad or finishing it here? Does it make sense logistically? Because there's also costs in terms of weight and logistics, so all of that comes into play. This year we're looking to rebrand also at the end of the year. Like I mentioned, we're trying to change our packaging a little bit to be more consumer friendly, and then focus in in the particular areas that we've decided to target, which are pretty much pharmacies and let's say the health shops and the health parts of supermarkets as well, and beauty shops. And then it's the same for export. Export, currently we're doing in 20 kg buckets. We're trying to research and see what the alternatives are, because I know, let's say like for Europe by 2030, they will not be accepting any plastics, even for wholesale.